Maybe that's what it's like being alone in a spaceship.
So I turn that on, and I turn... Do I turn Discord on, don't I, Grant? Don't I, Norm?
Yeah.
If you want us to
Right.
be heard, yeah.
Hello, world.
It's coming through nice and clean.
Right, we should be coming through nice and clean, so I'm going to mute us again, and we'll be back in about half an hour.
You come so far, and now you're in my own backyard. And I've been minding all my own business, minding all the stones I can't see. It all revolves around me. You turn the fool. Before you even scanned me, I knew. 'Cause I've been minding all my own business, minding all the stones I can see. But now you've come for me. Put away your guns, put away your threats and your taunts, they don't mean that much to me. Put away my boy, don't come here no more, or you'll find out there's much more to me. Would quickly drop the pain I'd and fly. But I got something in my heart for you, something that you might wanna see. I'll set the baby free, oh, don't be fooled. This top 10 ain't no big heavy mule. Oh, it's been engineered to death for you, hope you'll be impressed as your shields fall to hell, boy. Put away your guns, put away your threats and your taunts, they don't mean that much to me. Put away my boy, jump to cruise my boy, your high wake is the last thing I see. Oh,
Federation ships at all. And if we see you out in Super Cruise, we got our clippers out, you know you're gonna lose. Welcome to the Imperial Nation. We got better ships in our station, so make sure that you have your rebuy. Undermining, stopping expansion, feds exploding gives me satisfaction. We're gonna make you wanna cry. Don't wanna be a federal idiot, don't wanna be a Hudson affiliate. You might think the Corvette is brilliant, but you're still a Federation idiot. Welcome to the Imperial Nation. We got better ships in our station, so make sure that you have your rebuy. Undermining, stopping expansion, feds exploding gives me satisfaction. We're gonna make you wanna cry. No journey too long and no cargo too small. The profit margins never really mattered at all. We're gonna take the cargo where it's needed today. Super cruising all across the Milky Way. We'll take anything, anytime, anywhere. Loading up the T-9s to the brim with rails. For the mug, yeah, you know just where we're coming from. For the mug. Now everybody sing the Hut and Trucker song. For the mug. Flossie always seems to crash into the sun. Swivel likes the pilot on the Xbox One. Alvin at the front, you know he leads us well. Trucking across the galaxy, now everybody yell. For the mug. Yeah, you know just where we're coming from. For the mug. Now everybody sing the Hut and Trucker song. For the mug. Yeah, you know just where we're coming from. For the mug. Now everybody sing the Hut and Trucker song. For the mug. Give me a large pad that I can land on, and I'll give you my cargo and sing you my song. North Part 22 light years to go. Cruising to Hudson, whoa. No journey too long and no cargo too small. The profit margins never really mattered at all. We're gonna take the cargo where it's needed today. Super cruising all across the Milky Way. We'll take anything, anytime, anywhere. So shout it out loud like you don't even care. For the mug. Yeah, you know just where we're coming from. For the mug. Now everybody sing the Hut and Trucker song. For the mug.
Greetings, Commander.
Greetings, Commanders, and welcome to episode 311 of Lave Radio, the show that likes to talk about the universe of Elite and the fantastic community that surrounds it. I'm your host, Commander Phoenix to Fire, head of archives at Lave Station, otherwise known as Colin Ford, and joining me in the orange Sidewinder bar for this episode, we have our, our Inhuman Resources Director, Commander Shan.
Hello, baby son.
Hello. We also have joining us from the EIC, Commander Mac Winston.
Hello.
Hello. We do have our Deputy Trade Attaché, Commander Souverain. He's running late, so he'll be along soon. And on tech this week, our head of health and safety has decided to take over. So, yes, God help us all.
Beep boop, and I'm sorry, I don't think you got any noises. And I'm not seeing any Norman now either. Where's Norman gone? Norman, where are you? There's Norman. I've got Norman.
Quick, put Ben stabilizer.
Yeah, quickly.
I found Norman. He says he's coming.
Cool. Well, unfortunately, none of us will be in game tonight because we're all a bit busy trying to run the show. But
Norman might be. Norman should be.
Norman might be. All right. Well, we don't know where he'll be. So at the moment, you can watch the show on YouTube. You can watch the show on Twitch, and you can watch the show on Facebook. And you get to that going to laveradio.com/live and just click on the live chat. So, very, very quickly, we'll move on to see how everybody's been this week. So, Mac, how have you been?
I've just got an orange Sidewinder. My cat. You're talking about nobody in game. I wasn't in game because I got an orange Sidewinder error. But other than that, fine. I've been doing the CG. Well, I've been trying to do the CG and not having much success. So, I've been off doing our fighting a seemingly endless series of wars we always seem to get into in the EIC, and well, that's really been it. Starting to get, I've got wet on my bike a few times because the weather's changing a bit. So
yeah,
it's that time of year: wet leaves, wet road surface, wet me.
As long as it's not ended up head over heels on the concrete, that should be fine.
That hasn't happened just yet.
Yeah. Commander Shan, how have you been?
I haven't been too bad this week. Let me see what I've been doing in real life. I put a ceramic coat on the car, so that involved lots of about 6 or 7 hours preparation work, and then put that ready for the winter. And in games, well, I brought Star Wars Squadrons. Played it for 2 and a bit hours. Decided it was too much like Call of Duty in space and got a refund.
Oh, right. That's interesting.
So we can talk a bit about that after you had your bit if you like. But basically, it was, I don't know, it just lacked the finesse of what I was expecting. So I thought, well, I may as well get a refund on it and not and save the money for something else.
Ah, I see. So as we have just had somebody arrive, we've all got to say this apparently. Hey-oh!
Hey-oh!
Hello,
Commander Suverine, good timing. What have you been up to this week?
What have I been up to this week? I have been. I haven't been doing anything interesting at all. I've just been working because I was away last week. So my absence was because I was. I went off in a camper with two friends, and we went off tooling around the Highlands. They actually live in the same building as me, so we've been in like a little bubble since the beginning of COVID. And we just bought a load of whiskey and nice food, and cooked up meals under the stars and tooled around the Highlands, which was totally brilliant, and exactly what I needed. And then I got back on Monday night, and then I was working like a madman for most of last week, and I'm pretty much caught up now. So nothing too interesting.
So, did the Suvette go with you, or was it like an episode of The In-Betweeners?
It was me and a bloke and another girl, so it wasn't much like The In-Betweeners.
Did you go on? Did you take a trip along the West Highland Line extension railway from Mallaig to where is it? Fort William, which is reputedly the most scenic railways in the world.
Yes, it is. I've never done that. I did used to live in Scotland and have travelled around that part of the world quite a lot, and have not yet done it, but really want to. But we are thinking about doing a trip next year, and we are hoping to work that into it. But that would be that would incorporate bits of the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, and it is very uncertain as to whether that will happen or not.
And of course, for those that like the fantasy side of things, there's supposed to be a magic branch line off that line that will take you to Hogwarts. Yes. Okay, let's see. Like Shan, I splashed out and got Star Wars Squadrons this week. I must admit, I know what Shan is on about, and then I found out that I'm a victim of what was known as the 20% bug, which is if you fly with a HOTUS, there is a hard-coded 20% dead zone in the center of the flight stick, which means when you compare CQC versus Star Wars Squadrons, CQC comes out a heck of a lot better. If it wasn't for the Star Wars IP, this game would not be doing as well as it would be. And definitely, that's my opinion of it. But I'm sticking with it because I know there's a patch coming for a fix.
The 20% dead zone is enormous. My friend has been playing, and he's mentioned that as well. I mean, that's laughably large, and it updates the config every time you run the game as well. So you can't just change it in the files. Is that right?
No, you can't. Yeah, that's completely right. If you manage to change it, next time you load it up, that's it. It resets it. EA have said no. There was a lot of rumors saying that's to equalize the people who play controllers and mouse with people who play flight sticks, but EA have admitted no, it's a mistake. They're working on a patch. Stick with it. As far as Elite Dangerous is concerned, I haven't given up. I am now 83% deadly, so that means I've only got 17% to go, which still is approximately just under 300 scouts. And I've been helping out in the CG as well. But my Imperial commander she's not fighting for the Imperials on this one, which I suppose we can talk about later. So, we have had, yet again, quite a lot of news this week. The Polygon article was written by Charlie Hall, as was published not long after the dev diary dropped, and it gave a little bit more information about what to expect in Elite Dangerous Odyssey. They have said that this will be adding tens of thousands of new locations to the game, not only just the social areas on every outpost and every station, but also these. What did they refer to these settlements? These tiny little settlements, which are just going to be out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, they're the new settlement. They're the new. I won't say settlement, but settlement has a technical meaning here. They are the new sort of developed area, like sort of habitable area or inhabited place in the game that they're adding. All settlement is what they use to define a Odyssey only or a town that is new with Odyssey, as opposed to one of the inhabited places that's been in the game since the beginning. And they look a little bit. They look more open plan town like than the stuff that's already in the game.
Yeah. Severine, since you went on last week, I mean, did you get the everyone was talking Firefly? Did you get that impression?
Yeah. Everybody warbles about Firefly whenever anything comes out that doesn't look like spacemen in pajamas like Star Trek. Everybody always compares it to Firefly, and it feels a bit lazy. No, not really. I mean, it looked a bit frontiersy, but it didn't scream Firefly to me. Like people weren't dressed up as cowboys and things. It screamed Star Citizen to me, honestly.
Right. Well, we'll discuss this in a lot more detail later on. I mean, on Thursday we had a development live stream. Where they had Arthur and Stephen had a couple of the developers popping by and discussing the new content. Which, so without actually discussing what was there, what did you think to the streams, folks?
I think they're getting slicker at it. That they're getting more used to the virtual streams, if you see what I mean, in flipping across between people's houses or wherever they are, rather than the studio-based ones. So they're definitely getting slicker.
Yeah, I must admit, I found these streams to be improving week on week. It was certainly it certainly was an awful lot of information that we're going to be able to talk about, which I think is such a pleasant change.
Yeah. Mind you, I am comparing the production values with Lave Radio, so it's an improvement.
Yes, if anybody was here for the live show last week, yes, that it was just the Twitch gods were certainly against us on that one. So yeah, and of course on Monday there was the usual social stream for this time with Stephen and Bruce showing off what was happening in the CG, and I must admit it was. And basically one of the funniest streams that we've seen in a while, because basically they just gave up trying to score for the CG and just shot each other, which I thought was hilarious. I take it no one.
Well, my Mondays are crazy busy.
What was that, Sue?
Do they do these streams in open?
Actually, I don't know. I don't think they did this time. I think that the only time they do it in open is when basically there's nothing to show off. If there's something that some functionality they want to show, then they'll normally do it in a private group, so they basically get the chance to show off the content they want to show off
without the STC turning up with Harry Potter dressed up as whatever he dressed up as last time.
Well, I don't think he's about, so it's not really. That doesn't happen as much anymore. But there are some people who will just go for it for the laugh, mostly because they'll be hanging around the station just waiting for newbies to sort of limp in after a bit of a fight. So, I mean, shall we move on to the in-game events?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we're rattling through this quite fast. You see, this is
so efficient.
I know it's because Ben's not here. Well, Ben is here, but Ben's been given a new job.
I can interject if you want.
No thanks. You keep quiet and keep the tech going.
Get back in your box.
Go on.
My box is pretty. I like my box.
Yeah, come on.
Get back in it then. Come.
Jump, tech monkey, jump.
Go dust Nunu.
Oh dear, this Tinky Winky thing's going to be a runner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They don't run, they waddle.
They do. Except Severine missed out on it last week, didn't he?
and how upset I am.
Can you imagine Ben in a motion capture suit?
Do I have to?
Well, yeah, because we thought he looked like a Teletubby, so it's still running.
Yes, he would look a lot like a Teletubby, yes.
And we decided Colin was baby's son because he starts the show and he ends the show. You see.
I read an article about the girl who baby's son grew up into the other day, and it was all full of existential angst about life after Teletubbies. It was like, oh, I never got over featuring as the baby, as the son in Teletubbies. I'm now 25, and it's overshadowed my life.
Career highlight was being baby's son.
Exactly. It was brilliant.
Actually, it's funny you should mention that. Remember, well, I don't know if anybody else will remember this, but the baby who was basically on the front of the Nirvana album
swimming
cover.
Underwater, right?
Yeah. He said something similar because everybody goes mental when they find out he's the baby.
World's most famous penis.
Right. Okay, that came out of nowhere.
You're not wrong, I suppose.
I'm not wrong. Apart from possibly Michelangelo's David.
Yeah, that's pretty. I think Michelangelo's got a couple of extra years in him.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, baby's son's name is Jess Smith, and she's had her own baby, so she's kind of mummy's son now.
I wonder. Talking of these characters, I wonder how the the girl who was in the test card with the clown.
Oh my God! Now you're going back.
She's still in the test card with the clown. They've been using that image for absolutely donkey's years now.
40 years at least. Anyway, the in-game events of what's been happening this week. Well, the new starports, which everybody did the CG for, they've now become operational. So we've now got 10 brand new starports which will sell the fuel that you need for your fleet carriers. So everybody give yourself a round of applause. However, on the subject of applause, Operation IDA has completed repairing all 4 of the damaged stations. There's nothing left to do. So basically, they're all going back into hibernation mode until the next big accident.
It's Operation Ida, by the way.
This is the thing.
Dan will shortly point out because he interviewed them last week on Elite Week. I think it was last week he did Operation Ida.
We did them for Sagai, and we learned.
Yeah, because there's IDA, which are a completely separate group, which I don't remember what that stands for, and then there's Operation Ida, which I think IDA
isn't it just Defense Initiative or something?
They're a player minor faction, I think, and then there's IDA, which are the people who fix the space stations.
But yeah, Colin should know about IDA as well, though, Mac, because we've had IDA on Lave Station, and also because of Mind IDA. It's just this is Colin we're talking about, so we've got to give him a break.
Yeah,
I'm now facing an enormous visage of Edmund Mahon. I've just flown through his face.
I couldn't think of worse things for you to fly through.
Well,
silence, tech monkey. Get
the power
back to thy turntables or whatever it is that you people do.
The power has gone to Souverine's head.
I have no power.
He's got the power to silence you. Be careful.
I've got the power.
Anyway,
Monkey, could you make Souveraine sound like Tinky Winky on the screen? Sort of do a voice change on him.
Listen. Ben at the moment is at sort of apprentice level. He doesn't have. We're lucky. We're lucky that the thing's going out at the moment because unfortunately, our other tech person, Commander Hatter, his CPU blew up earlier this week. So sorry, Chris. We did. We're hoping that everything will be all right in the end.
It's a dangerous
but
job, Lave Radio.
yeah,
They tell you at boot camp, the survival rate is very low. Bad things happen out there. If you want to do Lave Radio, you've got to be prepared for that. You've got to know the risks. But not everybody makes it. That's just the way it goes.
A true leader takes the risks.
Yeah, exactly that.
Well, on the subject of risk, the Imperial crackdown on the monoliths have continued. And it's got to the point where the Empire had blamed the engineer Liz Ryder for creating the missiles or the bombs which blew up the stations. Now, this has led to a community goal which is in progress. And this community goal is different because basically, if you end up in the top 75% of the people fighting for the engineer, you get a super engineered piece of equipment. Now, this is the first time we've had a double engineered piece of equipment set up as a reward. What do you think to that?
I think it's really cool. I think the choice of mods on it are notable. Like, it's a cool reward in that you can't get it anywhere else. It is also quite carefully thought through, I think, because it's not game-breakingly useful. A Class 2 Grade 5 lightweight, Grade 5 high-capacity missile launcher is not gonna ruin anybody's game or unbalance the game particularly. It's got quite a niche. It's got quite a niche use case. If it was, for example, a fragment cannon that had Grade 5 long range and Grade 5 overcharged and that experimental effect that slows you down or disables your drives or whatever, that would be game breaking. I feel like they were quite careful in doing something that A, you can't get anywhere else and is therefore exciting and unique, but B, is not going to unbalance the game significantly.
Go on,
The most imbalanced missile I remember was the bug with pack hounds. Do you remember that where you could just keep pressing fire before they reloaded?
Yeah, that was mental when you saw these hundreds of packhounds coming straight at you. It was certainly butt clenching. That was. I mean, the other point I've got to make is that on the opposing side, the Empire just takes over Liz's base. Do you think? But everybody who gets more than 75% gets access to that base. Did you get the feeling that the people wanted that Frontier wanted Liz to win on this one? Because it feels
really
like
feel like that.
Yeah,
Well, they haven't got to change anything, have they? If she wins, they haven't got to change anything really.
Basically, the Empire didn't. As soon as it announced, the Empire didn't really stand a chance with this one because, on the one hand, you got something. Hey, we got a cool new thing, even though it's not game-breakingly good or anything. It's a cool new thing, which is kind of exclusive. Or we get access to an engineer we probably already have access to.
Yeah. I think I'll fight for this. I mean, at the moment, in game, my Imperial character's actually fighting for Liz because basically, she doesn't believe that it's her fault. She built some missiles and stuff like that, but she's built missiles for everybody.
That's like blaming Tony Stark, isn't it, for the missile attack in Iron Man?
It is a bit. So, overall,
or blaming Richard Feynman for the bombing of Nagasaki.
Well, before we go into the Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation for which bomb, what's everybody's impression of this CG? I mean, is it going well? Because I must admit, I'm enjoying it.
It's going well if you're on Liz Ryder's side. I did because I thought, I hope there's a sting in the tail for this, by the way. I hope that when it finishes, it's also announced that anybody who this isn't going to happen, but it would just be so good if it did. Everybody who was in the top 75% for Liz Ryder immediately becomes persona non grata in the entire Empire and cannot dock in an Imperial station anymore. Forever. That would be
Sam,
harsh.
I would
It's not going
really
to happen though.
I would really like a mass correction. I would really like a big reputational effect. If you support Liz Ryder, then you are immediately demoted to unfriendly or hostile with the Empire.
See, I
That would be
don't
really
think
cool.
I don't think that's funny enough. What I
And you're
would do,
stripped of your you lose your Imperial cutter.
No,
Which is confiscated.
I don't think. I just think a reputation change would be cool. Like, yeah, it's reversible with a bit of work. It reflects that that choices have consequences. I feel like that's the kind of direction I'd like the game to go in. I think that removing people's ships is too punitive.
You're probably the voice of reason there. Yeah.
you see what I would.
I've actually been I've been flying for the Empire as well, and but fully aware, only for roleplay reasons, but fully aware that we're going to lose, and there's no hope in hell of us getting it.
Yeah, what is that you going to say, Shan? What nefarious punishment do you want to dish out?
Well, I mean, seeing as she supplied the explosives to do the act, I would reverse it. So if you fitted the missiles and fired them, your ship blew up.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. I thought you were going to go for the. I thought you were going to completely wipe out people's Imperial rank and they had to start again.
Well, no, that would be afterwards. So when you did your rebuy, you lost your Imperial rank as a fee for picking up your escape pod.
Karumba says completely agrees. Supporting Ryder means that you lose your basking privileges, drop to the lowest Imperial rank, and it means you can't fly your clipper or your cutter until you rank up again. Ooh.
What you have to hit the same rank is what you would do to fly the ship.
Yeah.
I think it would be good if every time. I think it'd be really good if when your rank was low with one of the superpowers, if you flew one of the superpowers, if you flew a ship belonging to one of the superpowers with whom you had a poor reputation, NPCs sent you abusive messages. Like, so, like if you were hostile with the Empire and you flew around in a clipper, for example, you just got loads of abusive messages from NPCs saying like, "What are you doing in that lovely ship? Get out of it, traitor!" All that sort of thing. It'd be brilliant.
You get an L plate paint job on your ship.
It's funny you should mention that because that's exactly what Bruce was doing. He was flying a full-on Federal Corvette for the Empire in the combat zones, and you're just there thinking, a true Imperial wouldn't be doing that. But then again, I suppose they're just mercenaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, somebody in the EIC has a Corvette, which he's given the ship name of Imperial Corvette.
Right.
So such a beast technically exists. I suppose there's probably a Federation cutter out there as well somewhere.
I think there are probably quite a lot of them.
But it would make sense, wouldn't it, if you lost your reputation with a superpower, you would not be allowed to fly the ship. It would be impounded until you earned it back. That would make sense.
Well, no, it's your private property. You can do what you want with it.
Or if you end up getting your ship blown up, you can't rebuy it.
Yeah, you can't rebuy.
You don't necessarily lose the money for it, but you can't rebuy it until you rank back up again.
Yeah, that's a better idea.
Well, that is the thing.
Solstice and he got ganked with that. Oh, dear.
That is the thing, though. If you lose in real life, if you lose your license in, I don't know, non-European country, I don't know, in Switzerland. So if you're banned from driving in another country, you can't then drive in that country. It doesn't stop you driving anywhere else, but you're just banned in that country. So it would be the same principle, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, this comes back to the old thing that this little bugbear that I have is that I don't think you should be able to be top rank in both Federal and Imperial. There's got to be a point where you choose one side or the other.
Totally agree. Absolutely agree.
I don't look. I know some people say, "Oh, but what about my choice?" I'm just there thinking it would just make the game universe feel a little bit more, make sense a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely correct. I think it would be really good if being allied with one of the superpowers meant that you could be no more than neutral with the others. I mean, that'd be the simplest, best change that that the devs could implement to boost roleplay and immersion, in my view.
If I'm being really trollish, I'd have other people vote for what faction you should belong to.
Have you been playing Among Us too much, haven't you? That's actually one thing that we're going to have to do. We're going to have to do a Lave Radio Among Us, and I think everyone's going to kick Shan out first every single time.
I keep telling you, I'm nice. Don't bully me.
We'll all just murder Shan and then blame Shan for the murders.
I can just see there seeing Shan's the dead body and we still vote him out.
Exactly.
Remember what I found out last week about that Shan in the northeast means terrible.
It definitely means that here.
Right.
Well, I'll have a nice show, guys. Bye.
Oh my God, Shan's done a Cartman.
Screw you guys.
Anyway, show notes.
Show notes. Yes, we have gone off a little bit on the tangent railway. So the newsletter this week. Well, there wasn't newsletter, but there was a nice little store alert about new skins for the Mamba. And what was the other ship? Not that I'm testing anybody here.
I have absolutely no idea. None at all. Hauler.
Oh, it wasn't. That was that guess.
No, of course not.
Oh dear.
Educated estimation.
Shows how much people care about paint jobs now, isn't it? Really?
No, it's reflective of how much people care about newsletters. The Elite Dangerous newsletters are some of the least edifying literature I receive in my inbox. They used to be brilliant when we got like behind the scenes dev stuff and lore diaries and deep dives into the culture of the various superpowers and whatnot. Now they are, for the last year since they went bi-monthly, they're just garbage. Here's a new paint job. Here's a coffee table that somebody made out of a printed out Coriolis skin. Here's a spaceship that somebody made out of Lego. See you in the black. Jesus fucking Christ, they're just completely useless.
Okay,
what you really feel too.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, tell me I'm wrong. Are the newsletters useful at all?
Well, they're not for us because we keep our fingers on the pulse of the news at 24/7 here at Lave Radio.
For Tuesday.
But for someone who's just a part-time casual, I think that they're quite useful, especially because they now have a media section where Lave Radio has featured every single newsletter.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
Being serious, if I contributed something like, I don't know, a Lego spaceship or something like that and sent it into the newsletter, I would feel really chuffed that I had a mention in the newsletter. So it's easy to be a bit cynical about it. But for the people who are spending the time and contributing and then getting mentioned, it's a real buzz. So I think they do serve a purpose for that.
Yeah,
I'm being facetious. And actually, the newsletter is responsible for a lot of the reason that Sagittarius Eye was so popular, because we got featured in the newsletter quite a lot, and actually it is really, really good. I suppose that my cynicism is not born out of the service that it does to creators. It's more born out of the degree of insight that it used to give into the development of the game. It very much transitioned from, this is a Kickstarter project, we're all in this together, here is an insight into what we're doing, to you are customers, we are a publisher, and this is our weekly boardroom approved snapshot of anodyne nonsense, basically. I just miss it being useful, basically.
I guess it was always going to change, though. They couldn't keep the chummy, happy rolling together for very long.
A bit of concept art goes a long way. Like the occasional lore deep dive is. I mean, they can recycle them. They used to publish this stuff. I don't think any. If you look back at the newsletters from 6 years ago, they were fascinating. They were absolutely fascinating. And I used to really look forward to receiving them. There's, personally, I wouldn't begrudge them republishing that content. It's 6 years old now. It'd be better than yet another paint job sale.
By the way, Steve, are you paying attention to the live stream?
No.
Okay, no worries. Carry on.
Now I need to find the link to the live stream.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Right. Anyway, why does everybody?
Why have we got the
ask-
weather from Cambridge up on the live stream?
I have no
Because
idea.
somebody was asking for the weather, and I'm not going to give the weather and dox myself by providing my postcode. So I thought I'd give Cambridge's instead.
Wouldn't it have been easier to ask them what weather did you want to, or just say, look out of the window?
Did they ask for lucky dip weather?
Well, they asked for the lottery numbers
Yes.
as well.
Well, it's a bit of a problem because
Switzerland.
that person who's requested is actually in Switzerland. So
Bear with me a minute.
just call up Zurich.
Jesus. I need to get this.
Lave Radio, providing services that no one really asked for.
I ain't providing any services, mate. Doesn't this have an interaction?
Fair
button?
enough.
There it is.
Well, while we're doing, go on then.
No,
Shan.
I'm going to say we're on form tonight, aren't we? Such professionalism and
Yeah, I know. And surprisingly enough, it's raining. So, just like Manchester. So we will, as our tech monkey is reliably informing the Twitch stream that what the weather is like in Zurich, we are going to take a bit of a break. And then after these adverts, we will come back with our main discussion, which is, of course, all the extra tidbits that we got from the live stream on Thursday.
real content. Stay listening, everyone.
I know.
Okay, hopefully this will work.
Oh, boy, space, it's cold in here. That commander has a cheek sitting up in his cosy and
Well
warm
done, Ben.
cockpit while we haul radioactives around his cargo bay.
Oh, is it cold? I hadn't noticed.
Oh, that's right. Why, you're not even shivering.
Maybe it's because I picked up this North Coast cargo bay sweater. It keeps me warm and stylish.
Say, that is a nice jumper.
It's made from the finest Verrex wool and handcrafted by novitiates in the underground monasteries of Van Maanen's Star.
Wow. Where can I get one?
New North Coast Cargo Bay sweaters. Be the envy of your friends. Wow every lady from here to the Empire. Be warm and toasty even on the 10th planet of a dying star. Now on sale at Spark and Mensa.
Better now?
Better? Why, I feel so warm I'll probably never catch man flu again.
Spark and Mensa, 'cause nothing says sexy like a neck-high jumper.
Attention. Second Technician Chris Forrester to the Zoological Laboratory. The vending machine has broken. I repeat. Second Technician Forrester to the Zoological Laboratory. The vending machine has broken. Attention, attention. Medical officer to the Zoological Laboratory. Medical officer to the Zoological Laboratory.
This is a public service announcement from the Fuel Rats. Please stop what you're doing and pay attention. If we can rescue you, we will, but you can help us help you by following these easy steps. 1. Fly 50 light seconds or so from the system's main star and drop out of supercruise. 2. Note down the current system and the nearest stellar body. 3. If you're on emergency life support, log out immediately. 4. Go to fuelrats.org and click Get Help. 5. Stay calm, hold your breath, and let our seasoned professionals do what they do best. The Fuel Rats. We have fuel, you don't. Any questions?
It's even louder than me. Wait a minute. That can't be right.
Welcome back. Now, our main discussion this week will cover all the wonderful new information that we've had since the live stream on Thursday. This also includes some of the detail that Obsidian Ant managed to glean from Frontier when he sent in a bunch of questions. So thanks to Obsidian Ant for asking things on everybody's behalf. So the first thing that I wanted to discuss is that now, obviously, we can take our existing commanders and walk around on planets, but Arth has also confirmed that you can actually play ED completely on foot. This means you don't even need a ship. Now, that took me by complete surprise because I didn't expect this. So, what are your thoughts, everybody?
What did he mean by playing ED fully on foot?
Well, it means
So
you don't
obviously
need a
you
ship.
can't. Well, you obviously can't, can you? You need a ship.
No.
That's the point, you don't.
Well, no. But think about it. If for exploration, if you're on one planet without a ship, how are you going to get off and do exploration stuff?
Apex.
Other than
I think
That's
it's going to
an
be very
awful
simple,
grind.
actually, Shan. You're going to be able to jump into the taxi, go out and scan things with your handy little vacuum cleaner, hand it in, that'll get you an exploration bonus. Jump in the taxi to
would that
somewhere
then-
else, you scan it, more exploration bonus, rinse and repeat.
Now, does
Yeah,
this
but
mean we can be the annoying guy who asks for 3 tons of consumer products when we're being ferried around?
Oh, well, hang on a second. But let's not all get ahead of ourselves. Shan, you were wanting to say something.
Yeah, I was just thinking it through because, okay, you can say you can explore, but you can only explore to where the taxi takes you. And
That's true.
And then, if I remember rightly, we were told you had these new ranks for sampling things and using the Dyson tool.
That's one of the things that.
So, unless that exercise is linked to the exploration elite rank, then I we need to see how it works. But I'm sure you're going to have to do something in ships or something with the elite dangerous. I don't think you can just wander around and do what you want. Or if you do, it's going to take you so long. I don't know. I'm just open-minded to see how it'll work. But
I mean, it's not advertised. They're not advertising it as now you don't need a spaceship to have fun. They're just saying that the mechanics they've implemented mean that if you so wish, if you wanted to, for some bizarre reason, you could play the game entirely without spaceships. You can't do. You won't be able to do. Well, I don't know this. You're unlikely to be able to do anything particularly effectively or quickly, but you can.
Right.
You can play it without a spaceship if you want.
So, but that would mean, how would you then do ship combat elite unless it's killing players?
You wouldn't.
Yeah,
So that's
you
the
can play the
limitation.
game without. You can play the game without advancing your ranks.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying you just take the bus, which is of course the Apex service, which will allow you to travel between systems. Now, the Apex service at the moment, they say you will basically it'll happen in real time. So they haven't actually decided how much real time it will be. So effectively, you would turn up to the taxi rank or the apex place, say, I would like to go to such and such a place, if it's in range, and then basically your commander will then be out of the game for a set length of time until they arrive at that destination. So it's a bit like the ship, waiting on a ship transfer. Only you're doing a character
still
transfer.
only go where the taxi takes you. It's not going to be like a Star Uber, is it? And you just go whatever and hope you don't get killed on the way.
Well, this is one interesting thing, because one of the things that I was asking and got ignored an awful lot was, is it possible to actually rescue stranded commanders in either an SRV or a ship? So basically, you could then, you land, this commander B, let's say the planet side guy, will then board your ship, become part of your multi-crew, and then you can fly to a different direction and drop him off. And I just thought that would be great, because it'd be a new kind of rescue.
It'd be brilliant.
Intergalactic rescue.
I'm going to have to change my commander look so they look like Rutger Hauer.
There's actually no there's no mechanical reasons why they couldn't do that, I don't think.
Well, you see, this is the thing, because I asked quite a lot in the streams, and Arthur has said that they will not talk about things that they're not prepared to talk about yet. So maybe they saw that question and said, no, we're not going to talk about that one yet, but we'll take it from there. Now, I thought that was great, and then I thought, oh, hang on a second, just as long as you can't eject a crewman or a passenger whenever you've got halfway there, because we all suspect that there'll be someone on this crew who would just do that.
Yes, Ben.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to assume that this transport is going to be safe. You're not going to be attacked by pirates halfway through and just you go away from your desk, come back, and it says, your commander's ship was attacked. You are dead.
But wouldn't that be great gameplay, though? You have to defend the shuttle against boarders.
Yeah, that's interesting. There you go, Frontier. Did it take that down? You can have that one for free.
Hang on, my suggestion, I determine how much it costs.
Yeah, you broadcast it on Lave Radio. It belongs to us now. All your suggestions be ours.
Is that in the small print?
Notice how quiet he's gone all of a sudden.
I was just looking at the small print, and actually it says I have a percentage cut of anything Lave Radio earns.
Well, that's going to be interesting, considering we all earn nothing. You've got a percentage cut of nothing.
That's what we want you to believe, Colin.
If you've got a different contract to mine, there is going to be words. Anyway.
But yeah, there is in Elite, there is precedent for these, like you've been boarded by pirates, game over. In the Spectrum version of Elite, that would happen.
Right, yeah.
Occasionally.
That's right.
You get boarded. That's it. It's a screen will come out saying, your ship has been boarded by pirates. This is when you're docked.
They show no
mercy. And that was it. Game over. You had to reload.
Seriously?
Seriously.
That's a terrible mechanic.
Yes.
That's so arbitrary.
Well, we're talking a machine with 48k of RAM here. It's not like...
Yes,
you're right for not saving your game after each docking.
Yeah, well, exactly, quite.
This was 1985, so,
I guess
game design techniques.
I guess they wanted to have a risk associated with docking at certain ports, I suppose.
There was enough risk at docking anyway.
No, it wasn't. Docking was so easy. You just line up more or less with a docking port and put it full throttle, and you got it. Yeah, and then you got in.
That's how I used to dock, full power every time. That's how I still dock.
Docking in Elite is famously easy.
Oh, it is now.
It was back then.
The only thing is, back then you really had to make sure your ship was horizontally aligned with the mail slot. I mean, now a Culver Mark III will fit through 90 degrees to the mail slot, just about. But back then it wouldn't. You actually had to be level with the mail slot to go through it. Otherwise, you just blew up. Especially if you did the full speed docking style, you'd just blow up.
Yeah, you couldn't be an angle, could you?
Yeah, I mean, Bitstorm has been. in the chat room is speculating that actually, if you are if you are on one of these Apex transports, does that mean that other players will see you as you transport and could attack the ship that you are transported in?
Oh, that'd be so fun.
I have the sneaking suspicion that you won't be able to find these Apex transports with your ship.
Yeah, I suspect that's the case.
It'd be nice if you could, but there's.
But then they'd have to use the turrets to defend themselves, which I think is actually quite a good idea, because I actually quite like that turret mechanic once you get used to it.
But I think like, a boarding mechanism, I think, would be absolutely superb. But I suspect it's probably not in this release.
Mm-hmm.
That would be so cool, wouldn't it? Because you could do a proper blockade, because you could interdict all the buses and just stop people from getting in a system. Obviously, you could go to a private group and cheese it, but if you could properly blockade people by stopping their shuttles and blowing them up, that'd just be brilliant.
Yeah, Bitstorm has put the cat amongst the pigeons here. Players do not have the option of going solo to avoid ganks in this. So basically, you can only use the Apex in open, and then you're attacked.
I can't see them being real time. It'd be too.
Make it happen, Frontier.
It would be good. I can't see it happening.
There is one thing I've been wondering about with the suits though, and because right now you can use your arcs to get like clothes that go over your Remlock suits. And I have them, etc. I'm just have they mentioned whether that is going to be there in Odyssey? So if now you have got one of these outfits, I can't remember what they're called exactly, but something like what's it? Anyway, you know what I mean. The outer clothing you can put over your Remlock
right
suit.
Okay, got you.
I'm just wondering if you will be able to continue that they'll be actually available or enabled if you just like walk out a ship and into a station, for instance.
Funny, I think
because I look dead sexy in mine, so I want to keep it.
I think in this case, if you're in a, you're walking around a station or an outpost or a social hub, I think they're going to be allowing you to wear what you have in Hollow Me. The suits are used when you go out of those, when you're on the planet's surface themselves. Now, this actually brings us on to the next part of our discussion. Luke Benetton was brought onto the stream to talk about suits, and they said that these suits are going to be that complex they could probably do a whole dev diary just on the suits. But essentially, they are the new kind of ship, if you like, in inverted commas rather, of the Odyssey game. You can upgrade them. There are different types of them. You can modify them. You can obviously have more than one suit, and they've only mentioned 3 so far, which is the Explorer, the Soldier, and the Scavenger. So does this appeal to you guys? A new level of equipment to buy?
I just want to say I called it last week. It's going to be like Space Call of Duty.
Yes.
Where your suit determines your role in the game. I was thinking about, though, because they talk about emotes and motion capture, I want the Power Rangers animation when they activate their power suits, when they suit up, or something like that. I just don't want the suit to magically appear. It needs to be something like that. But I kind of don't know where they're going to go with this, because presumably you'll be able to get cosmetics and various add-ons and stuff for the ship. Now, for your suit, sorry. How is that going to be obtained? Are you going to have to be doing by CQC, for example? Are you going to need to do them for credits or a new currency? Because how will you earn these upgrades?
Well, yeah, that's something we're actually going to be talking about later, because they mention it a bit later as well. Just getting over the fact that Shan is a closet anime / Power Rangers fan, we'll go to Silverine.
I think this is pretty good. The thing that I'm concerned about is that they've said that you won't be able to buy this stuff for credits.
Yes.
They said you won't be able to buy the guns and the suits and stuff for credits, which is just. I remember saying months ago that I really, really hoped that Elite Odyssey wouldn't introduce a load of bullshit new currencies, and it looks like they have, which is really, really annoying.
What system?
The game already has credits. That we have a perfectly good currency for everything, and we have a currency for cosmetics. We already have an extra currency in terms of materials for engineering. I can just about deal with the fact that the engineers don't take credits and they just take random garbage because because ostensibly they use it to mess around doing their tinkering. The fact that you can't buy small arms and clothing and stuff with credits is nonsense. Like it's it's nonsense on a fidelity level, because the universe isn't going to be believable if you can't use the primary universal currency to buy things. And it's nonsense from a game design perspective, because you're adding more bullshit currencies just so that people have got more stuff to grind for. It'll end up being Destiny, where people actually make memes about how many currencies there are. I just really hate that.
So what do you think the currency will be? I mean, will it be the Triganic Pew, the Altarian dollar, or even the Will Flanian Pobble bead? You know.
My preference would be buying the stuff with credits. You buy all the small arms with credits. You buy all the suits with credits. But to upgrade them, you use engineering materials.
I'm being serious. So would the currency for suit be like the equivalent of the Ningi to the Triganic Pew? Would you have like a sub credit?
I don't think we've got a planet big enough to have a pew. If you remember,
but
a dinghy is supposed to be size of a continent.
You could tow it behind your fleet carrier.
Okay, we're getting a little bit off topic here. I mean, because basically we were going to come on to currency later. So we'll come on to currency later. But as far as the Ben, do you want to just jump in there, or is it going to be more currency talk?
It's more currency talk.
Right.
I can summarize it up very quickly though, if you want.
No, save it for when we get to currency.
Okay.
Okay. So, but as far as the suits themselves concerned, everybody's happy with them, and it's a good idea, or is it just?
It depends what you can do in them.
Yeah. Well, the three that they've discussed is obviously Explorer, so basically that'll be out with your Dyson-like sampler device. Soldier, that'll be with obviously guns, and I must admit the Soldier that they showed off was certainly very Darth Vader-ish or Stormtrooper-like, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah. The question is, will you start out with one of each suit, or will you, if you like, choose a profession, and then you then have to use your Altarian dollars to buy additional professions?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe you've got several different types of suit. So you start off at the Soldier Mark 1 suit, and before you know it, you've got to grind your way up to the Soldier Mark 10 suit in order to have any chance against Thargoids. We are assuming, I am assuming that at some point there will be first-person combat in suits against Thargoids. I think that it's pretty much a given.
Especially since we saw the leak a few months ago, or the supposed leak.
Yeah. So, we'll move on from suits then. Now, apparently there's going to be NPC dialogue options, like Skyrim. Now, I didn't think there was sort of dialogue options in Skyrim. I thought that those kind of dialogue options was in Oblivion with the horrible disky thing.
No, I think they were. I think they were, because you have a persuasion option and a thing like that for the dialogue. I believe in Skyrim. I think there was, but I don't know. I can see how it would work once, but if they have the same dialogue for every single type of NPC, no matter the place you visit. I can see that just getting fairly. You just skip read it. Oh, I'll go 1 and 2 and then 1.
Oh, right. So you mean it's more like sort of the Mass Effect SOTOR type things?
Sort of, yeah.
Right.
Now, I heard talk of voice acted stuff.
Yep. They have said that there's going to be a combination of text and voice acting. So I'm hoping that they've put enough variety into the voice acting so that everybody doesn't always sound the same. I mean, that does seem to work in the space stations, even though, there are quite a few that sound the same. But
it is quite a tall order, though, because if you think of it, if you had like 10,000 odd phrases or whatever, the NPC, which were all voice actors, you think of the voice actor time it takes to that. Now you multiply it by all the languages that Elite Dangerous is supported in. So you got to do a French one, a German one, a Spanish one, a Russian one, and whatever else. It suddenly becomes quite the epic task to get all these things voice acted. With sufficient number of phrases that it doesn't become instantly repetitive.
Yes, I know. Especially if you go back and compare that to Mass Effect, the very first one, and the amount of times you just hear the same phrase said over and over. Even in Final Fantasy 15, when you're in combat, you hear the same phrases all the time after a while, and it just winds you up. Anyway, Sovereign.
I think they will do that, and it will be a lot of voice acting. But it's no different from space station greetings or your crew members' chat. You get used to them being the same, and you excuse it. I think when they say dialogue options, I think has anybody played? Let me think. Either X4 or Pulsar.
I think we've played Pulsar, but not that much. But X4's passed me by.
Okay, so in those games, when you speak to an NPC, and the NPCs are proc-gen in both, I think the proc-gen in, you've got loads of dialogue options, and they generally boil down to in-universe versions of point me to my objective, point me to somewhere where I could get repairs on my ship, point me to somewhere where I could get some other kind of service, or if they're a mission giver, give me a mission, or if they're a vendor, let me see let's start trading. Those things those are your basic things, and there are in-universe phrases that designate those. So, for example, you can go up to an NPC and dialogue, and you have options for what to say to them, and your options might be show me your wares, or tell me where I can find work, or something like that. And then you select that with 1 to 4 or whatever, and the NPC spits out a line of dialogue, and it will be something like, "I've updated your map," and then you'll get a ping saying where the thing that you've asked to be directed. And yeah, okay, it's imperfect and it's a little bit clumsy, and you get very used to hearing the little barks that they have. "I've updated your map," or whatever. But it works. It works fine. And in terms of the effort involved in getting all the localizations done and all the voice acting done, it doesn't strike me that it would need to be that much different from the voice acting that they've already done. So anyway, long story short, I think there's a way in which it can be done convincingly and usefully, not in a
Sovereign.
annoying...
Can you please stop? Can you please go back to your microphone and talk there to let people hear about you? Because I keep turning you up and turning you down, and you keep going away and from your microphone, and it just gets lost by everybody. Thank you. You've gone quiet again.
I haven't moved.
You've definitely gone quiet again.
He's chasing after Tubby Toast.
Yeah. I can boost you, but then you start deafening people in a couple of minutes.
Anyway.
I'm going to have to drop out then. I've been on the same...
No, you're loud again now. You're perfect now, Suv. Whatever you've done...
I've done nothing. I've done absolutely nothing. My mic is next to my mouth.
That's weird. You're so much louder now. You're so much better now, Suv. It's great.
All right, move on. Let's go.
Here's the thing.
Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Right, Sovereign, have you finished your point? Right. Okay then. Right. Next up, we got Shan, and then we'll go back to Matt.
Yeah, I was about to say voice acting. They seem to remove a fair amount of voice acting from the game in subsequent patches, because do you remember the you used to get insulted for things like using docking computers and stuff like that from stations, so they've cut down the number of voices in the game, I believe. And also on the point of using voice acting, you don't need like a single voice actor for every single voice. They can do impressions. They can do different voices.
Yeah.
So I think you probably can. And if you change the dialogue, even if it's the same voice, it's different dialogue. So that kind of makes it seem a bit fresher.
Right. Well, before I hand over to Mac, I'd just like to point out that it's funny you should mention all this stuff about voice acting, because the pilot, the content creator that does who's done some fantastic Elite Dangerous videos, he touched on an old game that we all probably have played, Freelancer, where they had an awful lot of voice content in, and the problem was they did try the same kind of trick, but where you would talk to people in bars and then, try and get missions from people. And the problem was, after a while, you wanted to punch every single one of them in that bar, because the dialogue was the same. No matter, it didn't matter. They tried to put a little bit of variation in, but it just was so... Oh, actually, the pilot has just recently done a video on Freelancer, so I will recommend that, because basically it will show you exactly what I'm on about, and probably you'll want to punch them as soon as you see them as well. Mac.
Yes. Anyway, I think I've probably said what I'm going to say about the voice acting. Yeah, well, other than, they can do my point wasn't so much that you need lots and lots of different voice actors, but even if you have one voice actor, even if you have what's his name, the guy who used to do impressions, or the cast of Dead Ringers or something like that, Mike Yarwood, wasn't it?
God, that is going back. Really, you'd think that if you refer to Rory Bremner, yeah. Oh.
It shows how long I've watched. I don't watch much TV, but yeah, it's still a lot of time recording, and you're going to need you're probably going to need at least one voice actor per, even if you have really good impressionists, you're probably going to need one voice actor per language, and then the hours and hours and hours and hours. It's news to me they've removed the sounds, the insults for using the docking computers. Not that I'm being interdicted by a player. I'm being interdicted by a player. I'm going to crash into the plan. It's news to me that they've removed the voice actors from, or not the voice actors, but some of the voicing from the stations. But then again, I don't use the docking computer, so I wouldn't have noticed that anyway. I personally haven't heard a difference in a while. I haven't noticed anything going away. But and also I'm usually hearing the Imperial stations, but yeah, there's the other thing is, which is it's and it's going to be a Mooney on it. I know exactly what the wine will be when Odyssey comes out about the locations, because they say there's all these new locations, but they're of course all based on a template. So a large station, the indoor bit on the large station is probably going to look the same on every large station, and so on and so forth. But again, if you think of it, if you got like 10,000 or so locations, how many stations there are, and there's quite a few. You would have to, if you wanted them all unique. Again, it'd be an awful lot. You either have to come up with a really, really good procedural generation algorithm which can make a sensible layout for every station, or you have to spend an absolute inordinate amount of time doing 10,000 unique layouts, which is probably far beyond the Call of Duty for a piece of DLC which is going to launch for, I don't know what, 30, 40 quid. We don't know what the pricing is now, but it's and for which probably half of the people are going to play it are going to be lifetime extension, LEP holders or Kickstarters.
No,
So
absolutely no way.
No.
So
I don't think they managed to sell 1.5 million.
Yeah, that's nonsense. They only sold a couple of 100,000 tops. Elite has gained players enormously since 2017. The total number of copies sold dwarfs the number of LEP and Kickstarter.
Yeah, okay, but it's still probably it's probably a tough call to have somebody handcraft 10,000 locations or come up with a really very. I mean, they're masters of procedural generation anyway, but it would take a little. It would take something else to. I mean, you look, for instance, the shoebox stations, the outposts and whatnot. There's various configurations of those which are basically generated procedurally, but there's only people still complain there's only a certain number of designs, even though they may be put together differently. And I can see that now. I can see, and it is a little bit unfair as well, just due to sometimes expectations can get a little bit beyond themselves, and I suspect that will be. I'm calling it now. When Odyssey actually drops or is in beta, the first wine will be the locations will look too similar. So if I go to Lave Station, it looks the same as the next independent station, whatever that might be.
Mac, they can get around this by saying, look, this is a Coriolis station or an Orbis station. It's all modular. They're all going to look the same.
Oh yeah, and that's actually a perfectly reasonable explanation, because if you think about it, if you're building these things, they're like giant prefabs. You're not going to just build the internal layout different because you can, because that would make these things more expensive to produce. You're going to have a template. Every Coriolis station is
going to have
more
a
or less.
Thing.
Apart from the decal will probably change, but they've already said that the decal.
They've already confirmed that the decal is going to change depending on the particular environment. Sovereign.
I don't think. I think Mac's got a point. It does sound a little bit apologetic to say that nobody should have their expectations calibrated higher than identical locations. I think richness of palette of art assets is the key thing. I don't think it's about sophistication of algorithm. It's more about the breadth of the palette of art assets that the algorithm can choose from. So, for example, independent stations, 10 variants for a corridor, 10 variants for a mess hall, 10 variants for a shop complex. Imperial stations, 10 variants for corridor, 10 variants for mess hall, etc, etc. And that's how you, and then your algorithm knows, right, I'm populating an outpost. This is the internal layout. This is the BGS situation. This is where I pick my assets from. If you do that, you end up with stations that are all unique, but have recognizable flavor. They will end up being a little bit samey after a long time. But to be honest, the palette of assets used for Elite Dangerous to date is not that broad. Orbises look like Orbises. Ocelises look like Ocelises. Outposts look like Outposts. But it is broad enough to be interesting. I've been playing the game for 7 years or something. I still notice, like, I'm at an industrial outpost. I can tell because of X and Y and Z and all these little things. Or I'm at a commercial one. I can tell because I can see the shopping complex below me. The palette of art assets that informs that is not very broad, but it is broad enough to be satisfying. And I still look at, I land at Orbises and I see that they have the big sort of blocky storage bits on the end, and I think, I can tell that this is an industrial system or that's an industrial station because it has the commensurate bits. That's the way that you do it, and I think we ought to expect I think we should steel ourselves for the fact that we will recognize the same assets. We will probably recognize the same bar or the same footstool or the same corridor. Not everything's going to be unique, but I don't think it's too much to expect that it's interesting and varied enough to not feel that you're in identical locations.
Yeah, Shan.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's more than likely to be the modular based approach, because that makes in-game sense, because they wouldn't build a custom station each time. They're not engineer bases, which are not cut and paste. They would do a modular approach to building these things. And on the voiceovers, I want comedy voices. I want the voices that make me laugh. For example, Kermit the Frog, Buzz Lightyear, the English policeman from the Lower Low. You know, those sort of voices. I don't know, just something that makes you smile when you listen to them, because it then doesn't really matter if you hear them again and again. They're kind of amusing because they're different.
I must admit, I don't want it to go that silly, but I do find it amusing that sometimes when you dock at stations, there's regional English accents. So there'll be a Lancashire accent or a Somerset accent in some of them. That I do like. I think asking for a Kermit the Frog is a little bit too much, but although it has been noted by people who also play another space sim. What the heck? Chris Forrester is unavailable. Chris Forrester is unavailable. He never came back from the last job. I must admit, our second tech is missing. We ought to put out wanted posters, but it has been noted that the layout of the bars that people have seen so far are exactly the same layout down to a table as bars available in other space sims.
How can surely the design of a bar is the design of a bar? What are you going to have, like stripper poles in the middle of it or something, or what? You know,
Well,
how else are you
bars are
going
not
to
all identical, Shan. Like bars do differ.
No, I think there we go. Shan wants stripper poles in his bars. Let's just all take a moment to absorb that. So stripper bars and yes, Power Ranger animations. So
with Kermit
we're
the Frog.
learning. We're with Kermit the Frog. We're learning so much about Shan tonight. It's unbelievable. No, one of the things that they did bring up in this live stream, which I thought was extremely interesting, was they actually gave an example of how missions are going to work in Odyssey. Now, they did say that the main way that you earn this new currency, we'll talk about later, is by actually running missions. You can go out and explore. You can go and raid other places if you wish, but apparently the main way that they see the players earning cash is by running through missions. Now, I'm just going to go run through what they said, and then at the end of it, I just want everybody's feedback to what you think. So, first step is normally you talk to someone to see if they've got special knowledge about something that they care about. They then negotiate with the mission giver, which means that depending on the reputation that you've got with the people that back the mission giver, you could get more cash than standard. And of course, any history you've had to it. You can get to wherever you need to via Apex or the ship. In this case, you'd find a wreck. You'd use the SRV and then get out on foot. And then you'd rifle around the wreck looking for boxes, containers, or even bigger boxes that need work, unlock them, and unlock these containers would need special tools. Once you've found what you need, you basically get back in your ship or your SRV, or basically call the Apex taxi in and head back to the mission giver. Now,
can you call the Apex taxi in?
Well, considering
I don't think you can.
Well, it says you can get there via Apex.
Yeah, but you can't get back via Apex.
Well, you see, that's the thing. Well, how would you be able to get somewhere? They've said you can get there by Apex, and they think you're going to get stranded there.
Box run. You die and reappear with all your enlightenment. You just run out, grab the stuff, suicide, then you get back.
Somehow I've got the image of that Tom Cruise film, Edge of Tomorrow. Oh, you've broken a leg. Bang, start again.
Well, that's what they do with horses.
Yeah.
Dear. Well, I mean, what do you think to that? I mean, it's a scavenger mission. So if you are a fan of what Rey in Star Wars does at the beginning, then of her story, then it's pretty much the same.
I don't know. It could be interesting. Again, it depends on, is this the only way you'll be able to earn Triganic pews, or whatever they're going to be called?
Whatever. I think from now on, shall we refer to it as the Triganic pew? We'll just refer it to your pews.
So yeah, but as you brought up, Colin, I was thinking back when you were talking about it, because if you get there by Apex, by bus, then that would assume the wreck is within walking range of the bus stop, because otherwise you'll run out of oxygen before you can get there and back. Or will you have to come a ride on SRV?
They have said that normally the stuff that's interesting will be within walking distance of these settlements or outposts or the mission givers. But
well, then the settlers are the laziest gits ever, aren't they? If you say, oh,
yeah, basically.
Well, I mean, it might be that you can drive out there with the SRV. That will take 5-10 minutes, and then drive back again. I mean, we don't know actually if they say, right, okay, you can go about on foot, but you can also buy an SRV.
Yeah, but that's like saying, oh, by the way, do you mind going to Sainsbury's and get the shopping for us when Sainsbury's is just literally 2 minutes around the corner? That's just supreme laziness.
I know people who ask me that all the time.
Because these missions are probably more like, not can you go down to Sainsbury's and buy me this? It's more like, can you go down to Sainsbury's and perpetrate some acts of petty crime for me, please? But I don't want to get caught. I want you to carry the can if it all goes pear-shaped. So right. I suspect these missions, there's going to be an awful lot of petty crime.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that the stuff for missions is going to be close to settlements, because it's just stuff to, if you're going to relieve somebody of their possessions are going to be near where they live. I mean, they're not going to just dump them in the middle of some isolated area in the middle of some godforsaken planet somewhere. So it's going to be. It kind of makes sense that a lot of these missions are going to be close enough that you can sort of just take a stroll over there and then try and perform your light-fingered antics.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah,
I think my expectation is that the chat about Apex has been misconstrued. I'd be very, very surprised if you could call Apex in. I think the way Apex is going to work is it's going to be an interface in space stations that you can interact with.
Yeah.
And doing so and selecting a destination will put you on essentially a cut scene where you sit on a ship which may or may not exist in real space for other people, and you get taxied to another space station, and then a fade to black, and bang, you're there. I don't think it'll extend to taking you to planetary locations. I think when Frontier said you could get there via Apex, I don't think they meant from the mission giver to the wreck. I think they meant from wherever you are to the station that has the mission giver in it. I think the wrecks that you're going to be exploring on foot, I think that you'll be taking your SRV there, or you'll be walking there, and then you'll be using the same methods to get back, would be my guess.
I mean, the fact that we'll be able to explore wrecks, I mean, that's actually quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very cool. Very
so,
very cool.
There'll be crashed encounter sites or crashed diamondbacks that everybody's always wanted to wander around. We'll be able to actually go in and steal things from them or
I
Yeah, those-
must say
strip
those-
them.
the whole thing looks really, really exciting. That aspect of it where you can freeform take on foot missions out and on planet surfaces. I'm really excited for that.
I'm hoping he'll go into those tip-off missions you get
Hmm.
occasionally. You know, when you get tip-off, you go to this lat long on this planet, and you find a crashed ship there, and you rifle through it and get the. It's usually you scan it for data or whatever, and get a fairly trivial amount of money right now. But maybe they'll maybe there'll be some of that kind of thing, but where you can sort of go in the ship and I don't know, steal whatever it is you've got to steal out of it.
Yeah, they have confirmed that there are going to be in double quotes nefarious missions. So just like there are steal stuff from megaship missions and destroy radar installation missions, which will get you wanted status, there's going to be those kind of on foot wanted statuses, wanted missions as well. It's one thing that I've actually got to try. I've tried a couple of them and they were quite fun, but I haven't gone through every single one of the naughty missions yet, and I really ought to.
My you know how you have different careers in Elite Dangerous. Well, mine seems to always end up as petty criminal. I commit so many minor crimes on doing missions. It's usually doing BGS missions, but there's so many that will get you into some kind of small amount of trouble. I'm kind of on first name terms with the legal services in Ortahenetsi, where I always go to clean up all my transgressions.
Hello, Commander Mac. Nice to have you back. Have you heard about our loyalty card?
I've also been whisked off to the prison ship once or twice. Had my collar felt. But there you go. That's another way of clearing it off. But yeah,
Did you make use of the shaft facilities?
Frequently.
One of the things I want to try, first of all, was to see whether the mission board flipping is fixed. Because could you change mode and get a different NPC with a different mission after each? Because as they stopped that with a mission board, but it could quite easily be reintroduced.
Well,
by mission board flipping. I don't know.
Yeah, that's. I mean, they put together a specific server service to stop that from happening, and it seems to me they just need to extend that to cover the on foot missions to be so that it will stop the flipping. Well, at least I hope they have.
But then, how many varieties of mission do we think there are going to be? Because there are actually a fairly limited amount of missions one can do. It's get something that I want, it's get me X of this, or kill this, or escort that. It's a very limited scope of what missions types are in games. So I'm just wondering how they make that interesting.
Well, to be honest, I've got no suggestions on top of that, because we'll just have to wait and see what they'll come up with. I mean, we might be disappointed that it'll just be the same old, but you never know. We might be surprised.
Because one of the things I always found annoying, in Star Wars, the MMO, was you'd be told, I'll go and see such and such an NPC, and they had the exclamation mark above the head, and this NPC was taking cover in the middle of in the middle of a battle, the lasers going everywhere. You then went to see them. The lasers that were people shooting weren't hitting you at all. The said NPC would then stand up as if they're some kind of statue, say their piece, and then sit down again, completely oblivious to what was going on around them. And I found that so immersion breaking, and so it put me off doing the quests.
That's SOTOR, isn't it?
Yeah,
that was the Old
it is,
Republic. Yeah, I know exactly the bit you mean on that one, and yes, it is. That's the problem with these theme park MMOs that do that kind of thing, because it's just everybody's doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's really
it's different when it's a sandbox, because they're supposed to be able to put in way the mission givers won't be put into that situation, because those kind of scripted events won't happen. So yeah,
Yeah, I on mission variety, I see this quite a lot where people say like, oh, all the missions are the same. How are you going to make missions different? Thing is, video games are video games. Like every single mission comes down to, find me a dude, kill this person, collect X number of these things. Like, just welcome to video games. That's how it works. Elite Dangerous is at its core a game about moving things around, or shooting people, or scanning things. Those are the three core loops, and that's what you get. That's what we're all signed up for. Expecting that actually, expecting. I feel like the flavor variations that we have on this are criminality. So there are criminal variants of all of those things. So hauling missions become smuggling missions. Assassination missions become, assassination missions or massacre missions or whatever, yada yada. And that's interesting, and it adds an extra flavor. And also, if you get immersed enough in the sandbox that the roleplay aspects affect you, then that can add extra flavor as well. So, for example, a hauling mission or an assassination mission for your preferred superpower or your preferred BGS faction adds extra that gains emotional weight if you give a shit about the outcome. But expecting fundamentally the breadth of type of mission to change, I think, is over ambitious and not very fair. Fundamentally, it's always is going to be fetch quests and killing people, because it's a video game. That's how it works. Games that the things that do mix it up are, some games have puzzle elements and platforming as well. I remember when Shan showed me Guild Wars 2, I was really impressed by the platforming elements in that game and how interesting it made it. You're just not going to get that sort of thing in Elite Dangerous. You're just not. Like, I think fundamentally expecting them to reinvent the wheel with missions is a little bit unfair. I think it is acceptable to ask for interesting new flavors of the mission formats we already have.
Well, we've now gone and confused the entire chat room by saying Guild Wars 2 when it wasn't Shan who said it. So there's a lot of people who've just taken a drink there that shouldn't have.
Spit those drinks out.
Yes. Sorry, stick your fingers on your throat and get your drinks out. Mac, just quickly.
Yeah, it's just quickly. It always surprises me how many... There's a lot of people who get very salty about Elite. They say they bought a space travel game, but they don't like space travel. I mean, fundamentally, at its heart, that's what Elite is. It's a space trucking game.
Yeah, precisely.
With perhaps some shooting involved and perhaps some petty crime here and there, or maybe more major crimes. But fundamentally, the core of what you do is space trucking. It's like getting Euro Truck Simulator and then complaining you have to drive a lorry everywhere.
Exactly, it baffles me. The number of people who are like, oh God, all this game is hauling and shooting and exploring. When are you going to add something new, Frontier? I'm like, what the fuck do you want? Like Pokemon breeding? What the hell do you want?
Okay. Shan, do you want to quickly jump in?
Yeah, I'll just quickly sort of finish off the topic. Is the way you make these limited type missions different is you change the mechanics in terms of let's say you have obtain 10 dead spacemen and bring them back. you then have something where one of them is suddenly alive and you have to then escort them back. So it changes from a fetch and collect mission to an escort mission, or there's a twist in it, that makes it different than just a straight fetch quest. That's the sort of mixing up, I think, that I would like to see in them.
Shan is sus. Right. Well, we're going to move a little bit on from. Silvery, why have we got put that picture in the chat? That's
it's just when somebody said, "Find me 10 dead spacemen." I just thought of Etienne Dorn, the galaxy's weirdest person.
Oh right, fair enough. Why is he the weirdest person?
Because
I'm not familiar with him.
Okay, Etienne Dorn is he's definitely, going to look under his floorboards and it's full of dead children. Like, that man is he is
the Dennis Nielsen.
Just don't get in his van. That's all I'll say. Just don't. Whatever he offers you, don't get in the van. So he's an engineer who lives in Canolia, and he looks like somebody has beaten him extensively with the ugly stick. And two, his to unlock him, you have to take him a given number of occupied escape pods. And his appetite for occupied escape pods has not diminished in like 3 years. So
there is definitely a house of horrors going on there.
You don't think he just wants the good Samaritan satisfaction of just opening the pod and telling someone you've been rescued? Congratulations!
No.
There you go.
That man is on a register. That man is on a list somewhere.
Yes, if someone's going to play him, David Tennant would play him.
No,
really?
Judging by this photo, no, that's far, far too ugly. Mind you, let's be honest, the Frontier face generator certainly needs a bit of a fugly update, doesn't it? Because
it could do with one.
There's a lot of you know what? I'm not going to say anything because basically there'll be some artist who has worked for absolutely ages to put all that together, and every time they hear, "God, Lave Radio says, oh, my work is fugly. I can't handle it."
Oh no! There's some Frontier artists sobbing into their Frontier mouse mat now. I made Etienne Dorn. I spent hours on him.
Etienne Dorn is quite within the parameters of what a typical human of that age range kind of looks like. He doesn't
speak
look
for yourself, mate.
He doesn't look. He's not good looking, but if I sit around my office at work and look at all the people, say around in their 50s, none of them, well, with very few exceptions, none of them are going to be on the front cover of GQ magazine.
You don't work in a WeWork, do you?
What?
A WeWork. Oh God!
Being serious from it, there wasn't an advertisement for a job for a character artist going up Frontier. So either they are looking at this and they're looking at changing the character art, or the guy who did Etienne Dorn was so depressed he quit, and they're now looking for another job.
That's it. I reckon they sacked whoever made. They saw Etienne Dorn, was like, no, get him out. We need new blood. Look at him.
Yeah. Well, as someone who's almost 50, thank you for that, Mac. That makes me something to really look forward to.
I was going to say Etienne Dorn isn't really any uglier than Bill Turner.
You're very defensive over Etienne Dorn.
Come on, he looks like a middle-aged Wayne Rooney.
He absolutely does.
Well, precisely. This is it. You imagine he's not in the uncanny valley weird face. Look, it's not like some of the crew you go to hire who really have hit every branch of the ugly tree on the way down. He is within the normal parameters of what a Caucasian male looks like of whatever age group he's supposed to. It's the future, so he's probably like 100 years old. But I was going to say, he's not the best looking engineer, but also he doesn't look like a freak necessarily.
Right. Well, we're going to leave the fugliness behind for the moment.
Has anybody noticed that the Dweller looks a bit like Spike out of Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
No, I think again, if Spike had been hit by every ugly stick the Slayer could hit him with, then yes. But
well, I'm just going through the picture of the engineers now. The Dweller is definitely Spike.
Well, listen, I think that one of the reasons why everybody's
had real news this week. We had real news this week, and we've ruined it.
We've gone on to the fugly route. Right. This is the last that we talk about on this thing. But I think the only reason that everybody is on Liz Ryder's side is because basically she's the most attractive engineer there is. So
I mean, that's probably true. Let's have a look.
So move on.
Thought for this class is probably good fun. She's
what
probably going for a laugh.
Jameson? What about Jameson?
Oh dear. Right.
I think out of the female engineers, I think Celine Jean is probably better looking than Liz Ryder, and out of the male engineers,
I can
think
only apologise.
Marry,
Todd
snog,
McGrath
avoid.
McQuinn is
Is
probably
right
the
there.
Yes, let's play Marry, Engineer, Avoid.
There we are. We've got a new show next week called Marry, Engineer, Avoid, hosted by Severine.
Guys, have you seen Liz Ryder? She's terrifying. I'm just looking at her now. What are you talking about? She's attractive. I mean, look, she'd destroy you. Look at her.
Right, let's
She's destroying
move
me, but I'm
on
probably
from
enjoying
there.
her doing it.
I don't know whether to be aroused or scared.
So Liz Ryder on Liz Ryder on a stripper pole in a bar, hey?
Celine Jean's home system, which is cuck. Apparently, cuck means cock in Swedish.
Lovely. Right.
And also
Moving-
around there,
Oh, come on.
There is a system called Sheila na Gig, or was it Sheila na Jig? I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it, but have a look at Wikipedia what one of those is.
I think Laurie Jameson's got this Expanse belter look about her.
Yeah,
Let's have a look.
I think you're right. She definitely. It's probably the tattoo that does it, but yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right.
Delta load right there.
definitely
Right.
Delta
I am.
loader,
I
yeah.
am. I'm using the horse banhammer here. This has gone far enough. It's time to move on. There are more important things to discuss than which engineer you're most attracted to. So
There was much change your type then, Colin.
right. They have announced as part of Odyssey that we will be able to walk around the hangar of our ship when we've docked, and there also will be a seamless transition to get to the bases, so there won't be any sort of daft re-entry screens or re-entry animations. So, I mean, that's a good thing. And then they had brought on Oscar Briggs, who's an assistant producer, and he discussed a lot of the social spaces. But of course, let's bring in the big thing that you all wanted to talk about, which was currency, the on-fleet currency, or as Sham would like to call it, the pews. Now, just as a starting point, I can understand why they've done it, because they don't want people turning up with £1 billion, billion creds and say, right, let's buy everything.
Why not? Why on earth not?
Because then you don't get anything, do you?
Who cares? I really, really hate the injection of extra currencies for you to grind for. It's such bullshit. It would never have. It's just so inimical to the idea of a high fidelity, high immersion, high plausibility science fiction setting that you're encouraged to inhabit rather than just play.
Yes, and I know why. I know exactly why they're doing it. Is because it's to they're concerned that people miss out on the game. If they can just buy it, they won't do any of the gameplay to actually buy it, which some people probably will. But what you have to do is to actually make the gameplay. You have to design it well enough that people want to do it. You know, whether they need to, whether they need the credits or not. They feel like they want to do these missions because they're fun to do and it advances their BGS faction or whatever, or they get some special decal, whatever. But they shouldn't be forced into it necessarily. And that, because that's happened before. If you remember when Horizons launched, early on, when you were going down to a surface-based objective, you were forced to get out in the SRV. You couldn't even see the objective. It wouldn't actually spawn until you left your ship in your SRV, which was jarring. And of course, everybody quite rightly complained about this. So they rolled back that decision. But it also a lot of these missions I didn't used to do because you're forced to get in the you're forced to get on the SRV to do like these base scans or whatever. Whereas I enjoy doing it in my ship. Actually, I enjoy sort of flying in there, trying to get, because the base weapons are quite strong, so you need good engineered shields, etc. But flying in there, scanning the thing, and then trying to boost out there and leaving like with your trail hot of people trying to shoot you down as you leave. So I quite like doing it that, and it's good that they've given you the option. You can either do it in your ship, or you can actually get out and try and sneak around the base in your SRV and do it that way. But yeah, early on they did try, and they said, well, we want to force you into the SRV because we've done all this work in the SRV and we think you'll enjoy it, so we want you to get out and use the SRV. Well, if it's fun, we'll do that anyway. You don't have to force us to do it. And making things, not appear on the ground unless you actually get out in your SRV is kind of. I think they realized they changed it fairly early on, so ultimately they agreed with us. But this kind of separate currency thing, it sort of feels like the same thing all over again. And the thing to do is just make the Odyssey gameplay fun, and we don't need to do it for the money. And you then have a nice congruent set of credits. I know there are other ways of going about it. Make it so the basic suits, for instance, you buy for credits, but you have to find like the equivalent of the engineers. You might have to get reputation with someone to get some modification that the Empire gives out, or whatever. That kind of thing you can add to it. But basic,
okay, I'd want as well.
Basic should absolutely be any of the basic stuff that should be available to everybody. You should just be able to buy.
Okay, Ben, did you want to come back in?
Yeah, I was just thinking actually about the currencies and suits and things like that, and there's potentially a couple of ways that Frontier could go with it. First is, it could be that they've shared this already with EDRPG, and basically you buy normal clothing for microcredits, and there is some kind of exchange rate between space credits and microcredits, and that's up to Frontier how they decide that goes. The other idea, though, that I was thinking, they could almost go like a Red Dead Redemption career route, where you buy access in Red Dead. You buy access to a career using gold, and then you use a combination of gold and sort of Red Dead Redemption dollars to improve and get things for it. But it's a fairly significant amount of gold you have to pay to get access to the career.
Right. Okay. Shan, then.
Well, if they're adding separate currencies, I get you could have micro credits and things like that, but I'm wondering whether you'll be able to engineer suits using materials, because if materials are an alternate currency, then perhaps being able to engineer a suit, you're still using a non-credit currency, but you are then increasing flexibility for the suit. So I'm wondering if we are thinking of suit upgrades equals pews or credits, whatever you call them, but actually, would they then use micro materials for that?
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that we'll have to. Will we have engineers who will just specialize in suits? Because they haven't said anything about engineering with suits. They have said stuff about you can have people in wings and multi-crew will all work with Odyssey, but they haven't gone into any detail of what that will entail. So I guess we're waiting for Dev Diary 3 or 4 or whenever they want to talk about that one. So I think we've basically done this to death at the moment, because I think we're actually overrunning. So it's nice to have something that we can get our teeth into. It's not nice that we go off on a tangent about how attractive the engineers are, and we do apologize, but we'll move on to, I think we've had one little bit of community noise, which is kind of outside the Elite Dangerous world, but it still is relevant.
Bit of community news as well. We have a second bit of community news as well.
Right. Okay. Well, the first bit was regards the anti-Xeno initiative. for those of you who are aware, there hasn't really been any new Thargoid content for almost a year now, and the Anti-Xenot Initiative have basically said, right, okay, we're kind of taking a step back, mostly because this still seems to be an issue with the Thargoid heart bug as well as that kind of thing. So they have set up a new Discord called the Initiative, where if you want to, they're trying to keep the community together while playing other games like No Man's Sky Squadrons and Star Citizen, etc., etc. But they have said as soon as there's new Thargoid content, or even a working heart bug fix, they'll be back. So, Mac, what's point 2?
Point 2 of the community news is Sagittarius Eye issue 29 podcast is out tomorrow.
Excellent.
And we have in it an introduction to the Dark Wheel, Spikes the Wheel. We have the Secret of Lalonde 28607, hard look at hard points, lasers, and an article about the dolphin.
Right. Okay. That's nice and straight to the point. Kaizen has been in contact with us. The Dark Wheel Initiative are now pending an expansion, and that's the one that will take them into Lave. So we'll see the Dark Wheel in Lave soon enough. Ooh, scary. Show title: Etienne Dorn, Snog, Marry, Avoid. Yes, whatever you do, do not dock at the engineering station. Right, a community question that we skipped over from last week. We'll just quickly touch on these because we had some nice responses. The question we asked was, what can we do to improve the CGs? Flossie, our favorite our favorite trucker who specializes in community goals, says quite simply, have more of them. It's quite straightforward. Paul Wortmeyer, now I apologize, Paul, if I got your second name wrong. It says multitask goals that enhance the universe. For example, a community goal storyline or a mini story. So you need this plant, take it to Colonia, and then that plant has to be converted to a medical treatment, and then race it to the Sag station, then do it again. And
I mean, that's an interstellar initiative right there.
It is an interstellar initiative, and I think they're kind of doing...
Paul, you've invented interstellar initiatives.
No, I think what he's referring to is that you have a goal. A goal, but it's kind of like multi-stage, so that you've got to take something to somewhere else, or something to an engineer, and the engineer's got to generate something that you can then take to where the destination is. I think that's the kind of thing he means. Instead of just, right, this station needs tons and tons of bricks, you've got to actually go and get somewhere to make the bricks in order to... Am I making sense here?
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Yeah, interesting.
Oh my goodness. I don't know whether someone's put this name in here to really, really mess with me. But Christian Balog. I hope.
Can I just ask, if you have an interesting name, please write into Lave Radio with comments, because it's so good. It's really amusing getting Colin to read them out.
And by interesting, you mean non-Western English?
Yes, yeah. Ideally, sort of as incomprehensible as possible. Please.
To Western English people. It's probably a perfectly normal person from wherever they're from.
Can we just point out that Stephen had exactly the same problem with the Glaswegian dialect getting in the way of being able to speak properly, and it was a flipping good stream, Stephen. It was a flipping good stream. I heard it was a flipping good stream, and everybody else...
He did not say flippin'.
He did, and you know he did.
If you got Colin to say non-English names, he would probably say them correctly. because we wouldn't know whether they were correct or not. So
I'm so sorry, Chris. Yeah, if I have butchered your name, I apologise. Right, he would like some type of SRV community goal where you've got to do the community goal just using SRVs. I think that would be great. And of course, Matt Yellup replies, "Open only."
Yes.
Just
Open only SRV goal. That would be a demolition derby.
So the community question we'd like people to ask, and we'll put this out on the social media as well, is basically what has got you excited about Dev Diary 2? Because basically there's been an awful lot of a content dump this time round, and on top of what we know from Dev Diary 1, you must admit there is a momentum building, a positive momentum. I never thought I'd say that about Elite Dangerous for quite a while.
Yeah, it's really great to be able to say that, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, moving on from our community question, there is
sorry.
Oh yes, okay, Shan.
Did we ask the other community question?
Can you remind me of what the other community question
The other
is?
community question was more important than the ones you said. Was which Teletubby is the Lave Radio crew?
Oh God.
Right. Okay. So we will also put that up. Oh my goodness, on social media just to keep Shan happy, and if everybody votes Shan as Poe, I think that'd be fine. Keep everybody happy. Right.
Yes,
any other business? Now, I must admit, this is one of the things that I've been. You'll probably notice that there's been a lot of YouTube elite content creators and company have all been going on to Star Wars Squadrons. Now, obviously, Ben's been playing it a lot, and Shan played it for a bit and then decided he didn't like it. I mean, I know that I am enjoying it, but I just want my X52 Pro to sort out the dead zone problem. But how do you guys think the actual combat in that compares to Elite Dangerous?
Is that community question for next week, or is it?
No. I'm just asking you guys in general. If you played it, obviously.
It was like Call of Duty in space. You know when you get Call of Duty or Battlefield and it's controlling a vehicle?
Yes.
It felt like that. Even with because I tried it with a joystick and HOTAS, and then I tried it with mouse and keyboard. And it just felt not as nuanced as Elite Dangerous.
Yeah. Ben, are you able to talk, or are you still teching?
Yeah, I can chime in. I'm gonna disagree with Shan. Actually, I did spend quite a while setting my joystick up, and once I'd set it up, I'm finding it very enjoyable, and I'm enjoying the variety of weapons and weapon choices. I especially appreciate the ion cannons and things like that. I miss gimbals. My God, do I miss gimbaling?
Yeah.
I like them. I know what Shan means about it being Call of Duty in space. And I wish CQC could have been. There are things that I'm liking about it. For example, I do like the fleet battle mode that we have, and I like the fact that we pick different roles to do different things, and you've essentially got a tank class and a healer and things like that. I don't mind the flight model. I like the variety of things that we can do to improve boosts, and I really appreciate the drifting mechanic. Once you've got that locked down, my God, you can do some beautiful maneuvers.
Yeah, but you can only do that in the A-wing and the TIE Interceptor, can't you?
No, I've been
yet to get that far then.
I've been drifting in the TIE Reaper or the U-wing as well, and a Y-wing. And you can also do that to avoid missiles. And I wish we could avoid missiles by outflying them in Elite Dangerous, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean,
well, you can do the slow ones like the torpedoes.
Yeah.
You can.
I'm meaning
if you
homing
can outrun
missiles.
them, you can outrun them.
Yeah. I'm thinking homing things rather than others, but yeah.
Okay, so I mean, at the moment, this is just a personal opinion, but at the moment, I still feel that CQC is a tighter arena shooter, if you see, a multiplayer shooter, if you see. I think that is mostly down to the control problems that I'm having. Because it does feel with this dead zone thing, the ships feel like they're flying through goo.
The 20% dead zones thing is an absolute deal breaker, but you can't really judge the experiences based on a bug. I mean, that's if they've confirmed that that's not intended. You sort of need to wait until they fix it before you judge them against each other, really.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to table that for a later time when they've actually fixed the bug and then compare the two. I must admit, I do like the fact that it's so easy to get a match. You can get a match within 2 minutes, and if that had happened with CQC right at the very beginning, I don't think it would have the bad reputation it would have had.
It's cross-play, isn't it, Colin?
It is cross-play, yes. But I do know in Steam charts, it's got about 20,000 people playing it at once, as opposed to Elite Dangerous, which has got about 5,000, 6,000. That will probably change when people get bored of it.
But the thing with Star Wars, though, it's designed as a multiplayer game. I mean, I played part of the single-player campaign, and it was just your bog-standard single-player campaign. There wasn't anything remarkable about it, personally.
I disagree there.
I've missed that. I've really missed that kind of X-Wing and TIE Fighter mission structure. There hasn't been a game like that for almost 20 years. I think the last one would have been Free Space 2. And to be honest, now that it came back, I've just realised how much I missed that kind of mission-based shooter, space sim shooter. I'm just, I suppose, drowning in my own nostalgia here. Ben?
I definitely think it's for the nostalgia. If you enjoyed X-Wing or TIE Fighter, this is a worthy successor to those. Sorry, I've just read Who is Stinky Winky. That is the Psycho Cow is Stinky Winky. But I do think it's definitely a worthy successor to X-Wing or TIE Fighter. The Star Wars moments the game very, very deliberately gives you are so reminiscent of the movies and things. It's lovely.
Psycho Cow just heard that.
Oh dear. Hi, Grant.
Oh dear. Right. Right. Moving on from there, we'll just. I think. Has anybody got any other business they'd like to just quickly touch on before I do the usual shout outs and we end the show?
Yes, there was only one person in Lave today with me, a Commander Minstray who tried to interdict me around Planet Lave, undoubtedly for malintent.
Oh wow! And at least he tried.
Yeah.
So we'll just give our usual shout outs. Obviously, our sister station, Hutton Orbital Radio, that broadcasts on a Thursday at 8:30 British Summer Time, although not for much longer. You can tune in at tv.forthemug.com, or if you just want the audio, go to radio.forthemug.com. For the discerning commander who likes a bit of CQC action, check out the CQC Discord at discord.me/Elite Dangerous CQC. Following on from this, we have the fantastic Galnet News Digest, which is brought to you by the by Commander Witherspoon. See, we know how to pronounce your name.
You said Witherspoon.
I said Witherspoon. As opposed to...
Witherspoon. You said Witherspoon.
I did not say Wetherspoons.
joking.
I did not say. Don't get me started. I will personally come round down to London and punch you if you say that.
You said Wetherspoons, and then you ordered a £5 fry-up, and it was really awkward.
You know, I was just about to have a go at a certain other podcast that go out the way to mispronounce his name, and you just ruined the point. But I'm sure he takes it in good faith. Anyway, thanks to all those who have chipped in on the Twitch chat, and to, of course, the one commander that tried to get Mac. But that is it for another episode of Lave Radio. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, you can email info@laveradio.com, hit us up at facebook.com/laveradio, tweet us at Lave Radio, or you can join our Discord server by going to discord.io/laveradio. We also have a TeamSpeak server where commanders come to hang out and chat, which you can find at teamspeak.laveradio.com. Remember, this is shared with the truckers, so bring your air freshener. Do get in touch if you have any questions or if you'd like to discuss anything in the future. Lave Radio is recorded live on a Tuesday evening at 8:30 British Summer Time and streamed out on laveradio.com/live and YouTube and Facebook and Twitch. So thanks to Shan, thanks to Commander Sovereign, and of course thanks to Mac. Sorry, I just almost choked myself there for some reason. And of course, special thanks today for today's tech specialist, Ben, who I think's done a wonderful job for his first attempt. So until
say that after we've listened to the edit and the show, because Ben could say, "Actually, guys, I forgot to press record."
Yeah, he might have deleted the entire show.
I think we've got about 5 recordings, and Norman's also doing a separate recording.
Just to be double sure.
So, hang on, Ben. If Norman's doing a separate recording, why do we need you?
So I can insult you on air, which you haven't even been noticing sometimes.
I have.
Well, okay. That's it. And until next time, commanders, fly safe. And if you can't do that, fly dangerous.
Is your life like this? Sounds like someone having an orange inserted. Need a safe word. Space can be done. I'm gonna see the galaxy.
Damn it. No worries, guys. Hold the fort for 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Galnet News Digest, 6th of October 3306. We read the news so you don't have to. In this week's news roundup, Rider battle distracts from lockdown suffering. Webster tells all, but not yet. Brewer fails to increase tritium supply. The Christmas crud convoy. Rider battle distracts from lockdown suffering. With everyone's attention on Denton Petraeus's attempts to arrest engineer Liz Ryder for her alleged complicity in the neo-Marlinist station bombings, and on the apparently successful counterstrikes by the Euribia Blue Mafia to preserve the engineer's freedom, it's easy to forget that the Empire has forced 4 of its own systems into lockdown because of their dangerously democratic thinking. Petraeus has attempted to link the 4 systems of Beatis, Chana, Aquada and Nahuatl to the terrorist bombing that he's also trying to arrest Ryder for. But it's important to remember that the Republican Marlinist movement in these 4 systems is entirely unrelated to the terrorists of the Neo-Marlinists. The Marlinists want to bring about equality of opportunity through peaceful change. The Neo-Marlinists seek to use terror to sow fear and dissent wherever they can. But still, the citizens of Beatis, of Chana, of Aquada and Nahuatl are confined to their homes. Their economies are shut down. There are troops on the streets, in the starports, and there are military ships patrolling the system. Nothing goes in or out without the approval of Imperial High Command. Petraeus is bleeding these systems dry as punishment for daring to think the Empire might manage to do a bit better on equality and on voting reform. It's not yet clear what else Petraeus plans for these unfortunate imperial citizens, but pilots are warned that they enter those systems at their own risk. Webster tells all, but not yet. When Starship 1 disappeared in May 3301, did anyone really think that it was all just a silly accident? It had all the hallmarks of being a copycat of the loss of the Highliner Antares, and there were plenty of folk, including a lot of Onionhead farmers, who wouldn't be sad to see the back of President Halsey. But the investigating authorities quickly found that there was no reason to suspect foul play. And here we are, 5 years on, finding out for the first time that the order to sabotage Starship 1 came from the very top. We're still waiting for the details Chief Technician Rory Webster promised yesterday in return for avoiding his own execution on charges of treason and mass murder. Perhaps it's not yet worth speculating whether the sponsor for the sabotage was Jupiter Rochester of Core Dynamics or Admiral Vincent of the Federal Navy, and whether they in turn were acting on the orders of Felicia Winters, Zachary Hudson, or, given what we later learned about the Rochester family, whether Aisling Duval had anything to do with it. Perhaps it's too early to say whether the revelations we are about to hear will rip the Federation apart, demonstrate that President Hudson used underhand tactics to become president and should be impeached, removed from office, tried for treason and sentenced appropriately. But if Rory Webster, who is currently in the custody of the Federal Intelligence Agency, should mysteriously die before he gets to tell his story, that in itself would give us a very big clue about who was behind the destruction of Starship 1. Brewer fails to increase tritium supply. Galnet News Digest can reveal that tritium supplies at the 10 new starports are at critically low levels less than a week after the stations opened, and the advertised special prices for construction materials are nothing to write home about either. Our secret shopper visited the stations and found typically less than 20 tons of tritium available at these new, more efficient tritium supply depots. Meanwhile, the special prices for the bauxite, building fabricators, gallite, power generators, rutile and thermal cooling units are hardly at the painite level of exciting. For example, Trevithick Vision in Ninebin, less than 3 light years from the conflict in Euribia, has no demand at all for building fabricators or thermal cooling units, is buying bauxite at 1,600 credits, gallite at 3,000 credits, and power generators and rutile at 2,500 credits. It's a bit above the normal market rate, but for commanders used to being offered 500 times the fair market value for void opals, such modest price hikes are hardly going to attract vast fleets of Type 9s. And with these refineries unable to keep up with demand, the search for Brewer's new tritium supply continues. The Christmas Crud Convoy. With the 2 weeks of official mourning for Imperial Dilettante, Prince Harold, coming to an end on Thursday, commanders are reminded that those who helped bring in supplies have only 2 more days to take advantage of their 20% discount on new Gutamaya ships. Get your courier, clipper and cutter before it's too late. With millions of tons of caviar, brandy and cigars consumed on Capitol, there's going to be an awful lot of mess to clean up. A spokesperson for the Imperial household has expressed concern that it might take weeks or even months to get all that bio-waste packed up and removed. But where can they send it for disposal? With the Christmas carrier's convoy due to set off for Colonia on the 1st of December, what nicer present could there be for the inhabitants of that distant cluster of thinly inhabited systems with no Imperial presence whatever than a few thousand tons off the brown stuff. And that's this week's Galnet News. Galnet News, we read the news, so you don't have to.